to the August membership meeting. Tonight is going to be very special topics. Of course, every meeting I think is very special, but tonight is special. We're going to do the introductions of the individuals that are here representing their organizations very quick. And basically what we do is we ask you to stand up and tell us your name, what organization you're representing. And that's about it, no speechifying.
At the end of the presentation, then we will have chance to exchange, discuss, and to know more about each other. But for now, it's only your name, the company you represent, or the blog, and then later on we talk with everyone, okay? So, we start with
Alejandra Johnson, Alex Johnson, attorney at law.
Sergio Munoz, Bolivian Society and Hispanic News Group.
Celia Pastor, Hispanic Leader Groups.
St. Ronald, St. Louis Community College.
Space, Hispanic Leadership, Maria Yaxpich, I'm the president of the Bolivian organization.
Ashley Montano, Missouri Historical Society.
Guillermo Rodríguez, secretario de Actas, recording secretarios.
Maurice Bobo, HLG, board member.
Susan Bobo, Santa Cruz Mosaic Project. I'm Ruth Felchek with Casa de Salud. Vanessa Garcia with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Joe Carretero, tonight I'm going to represent the St. Louis Police Department. I just need 3 minutes to do a little spill on recruiting for Hispanics.
Okay. So you want to speak later on?
Yeah, they know when the meeting,
Later on?
meeting.
That would be great and very important.
But only for 3 minutes.
Yes.
He goes down.
After that, everybody gets bored.
Quality, not quantity.
Okay, your brother now.
Frank Carretero, attorney in private practice in South St. Louis.
Thank you. And the beautiful ladies there.
Marta Castellano, Hispanic Leader.
Leonora Bauer, you're retired Hispanic Leaders Group board member.
Judge James Dowd, Missouri Court of Appeals.
Matt Vieanello, I'm an attorney in Clayton, and I'm here on behalf of Missouri Law.
Antonio Maldonado, Hispanic Leaders Group, head slave in charge.
Elena Garcia Kenyo, retired Spanish teacher for the Limber School District and with the Hispanic Leader Group for several years. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here today. And here is our president.
One sidebar, since we have a guest tonight, can you please stand up again? Mr. Carretero? Yes, you, the police department. When you first introduced yourself, you said 2 minutes, and then I noted you said 3. So you're going to get 3 minutes, okay? 3 minutes. And the first up is Casa de Salud, and then we'll have the Bolivian Society, then we'll have your 3 minutes, and then we'll have Matt, and then he'll introduce the judge, okay? So I had asked Alex Johnson to be moderator or something like that, my mouthpiece, I told her, or something, so that we can structure this meeting in a way that we have shared that we should, okay? And that's going to make it a little bit more effective and more efficient for us in terms of the timing. So can you please take over?
Yeah. So just to create the framework for the event, something that I've been talking to a number of you about, and certainly tonight isn't the first night, and that is to mobilize our privilege. So I know that there are a lot of people, interested in becoming active, and how to become active is a question. So for some of us who are naturalized citizens, recent ones, the question might be, how do you vote? Literally, how do I register to vote? How do I find out my status? What do I do? Maybe you're Frank Carretero and you are wanting to become a judge. Maybe you want to find another way to get involved, and the Casa de Salud would present an opportunity for you. The point is, as Inés Sandoval tells us in his presentation, and you can say it much better than I can as a 20 governor person, we have, $6 billion in the Hispanic Hispanic purchasing power here in Missouri alone. 68% of Hispanics in the St. Louis metropolitan community have a higher education. We know, and I know it's August and our group is small today, but we know of the enormous amount of power that our group has. We have psychologists, we have financial advisors, everybody that came to the meeting with Governor Parsons stood up and explained who they are. So the framework is, how do we mobilize our privilege? And for some people, we know it's maybe protesting, but not everybody's going to take that mode of activism. Not everybody's going to move in that direction. So how do we, as Hispanics, increase our representation systemically? We look at City Hall. We look at that picture of the arch that didn't include any people of color. We look at, until the second one was taken, right? We look at other frameworks. There have been no Hispanic judges. And the question is, I don't think any of us here would want to submit or propose that we want to somehow leapfrog any obligations that might have any qualifications that might be required. But there are processes to get involved. If you want to vote, you have to take those steps. If you do want to get involved with our Casa de Salud or other groups, there are things that we are all doing that we don't know about each other. So first individually, and the second thing as a group, we know, and I know it's something that we don't like to talk about in front of outsiders, but we know that sometimes there are tensions within our group, right? The president of such and such society hurt my feelings 12 years ago. The Dominicans don't hang out as much with the Bolivians as hang out with the Mexicans and hang out with the Puerto Ricans and all of that stuff. And I love you all because I go to a lot of these cultural events and different groups, and I don't care as much about those divisions having already been a second generation individual here in the country. But those divisions, I would submit, given the current political climate, whether you agree with the policy, this is a nonpartisan statement, whether you agree with one policy or another, one tariff or another, one approach to immigration or another, there are issues that are affecting all of us, and our voice will be stronger the more we act together. That's the bottom line. The more we learn what the processes are to get involved, and how would best match our own individual preferences and also our group strengths. So that's the kind of framework. And did you say we were starting with Casa de Salud?
Yes, we're starting with Casa de Salud, and just for clarity, I have a timer.
Yes, and
So
Tony will talk to you.
If you're looking my way when you have 1 minute, I'll go like that, and then I'll do it again in 20 seconds. I'll do it again in 20 seconds, okay? So I don't throw you off when I say one.
Are you going to tell me when I can go then? Or?
Yes.
We're going to call you up. We're going to call you up.
Is that counting right now? What she wants?
No, but after she gets introduced.
Well, I'm going to actually let her introduce herself.
Yes.
Because I don't really, I don't know, but tell us the three most important parts of yourself and the three most important parts, if you would, of the Casa de Salud. And then please make sure, I'm sure you have it in your questions, how to get involved. And we're such a small group today. I know it's normally larger. I'd like to ask the people here to make sure that you're ambassadors for this information. What you get here, share it with the people that we know are normally here who happen to be on vacation or whatever today. Okay,
Great.
we want to know yourself.
Okay, all right. Well, my name is Ruth Vilches, and I am the Community Engagement Coordinator for Casa de Salud. Pretty important things about myself. Okay. Oh, that was quick. I would say that I recently moved to St. Louis, so I'm still saying recent. It's been 2 years, but I still feel like I'm getting to know the city. It's the biggest city that I've lived in. I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama, so my first time living outside of the South. I'm married to a wonderful man named David Vilches, and he is currently in grad school. Sorry, currently in grad school right now. And so that was what brought us to St. Louis. He just became a citizen this past year. He is from Argentina. We're still mourning the World Cup. But that's all right. The Women's World Cup is next year, and I'm a big soccer game. So
There you go.
that was a few more than 3 things. But so I started working at Casa de Salud, and the way that I found out was I Googled nonprofit work with immigrants and refugees and coming to St. Louis. And what really attracted me to Casa was the focus not just on providing initial level of healthcare, but really helping people navigate through the healthcare system. So not just a handout where then people leave and then are left in the same spot as when they came, but really looking to accompany people and equip and empower them to be successful in the healthcare system. So I started working at CASA 2 years ago. I'm not disillusioned yet, so it's still a good thing. And basically they paid me to talk about CASA, so that's what I'm here to do. What I really wanted to come talk to you all about, thank you, Tony, first of all, for having me and for inviting me here tonight, was that I really am looking to get more engagement from the various societies and Hispanic Latino groups within St. Louis. Right now, a lot of our volunteers, we have volunteers from all over, really. I mean, we have volunteers who come here for grad school, PhD, and they walk into CASA, and the first thing they go is, I didn't even know that there were Latinos here in St. Louis, because they might be in a university that they might be the only Latino in their class. So they'll come in and it's a breath of fresh air to be around Spanish and just hearing other languages. So we have students that come like that are coming looking for that experience here. And then we have individuals who have lived here for a long time, are retired, and are looking for ways to continue to contribute to the community. And then we have people who are working full-time, who are still in their 9-to-5 jobs, who are also looking to give back to the community. So we have a wide range. But one of the things that I would really love to see is I would love to see more individuals engaged from the various societies. So, we were at the Puerto Rican picnic a couple weekends ago. I'll be at Ave Paso on Saturday, and trying to just go to different events to get more of the community involved. Because right now we're trying to grow, and so what we need is we need more volunteer interpreters, we need more volunteer patient navigators, we need more volunteer medical physicians and nurses and physician's assistants, people that can come alongside. Obviously for interpreters and patient navigators, it's great if everyone's bilingual, but we also just are looking for more physicians to get involved. Counselors is huge, exactly. So that was kind of one of the other things I wanted to talk with you all about, is that recently, as of February, we opened our mental health collaborative, or La Alianza de Salud Mental. And that is basically a collaboration between 6 organizations and private individuals to provide more mental and behavioral health care. We know there's still, that stigmatism that, si tiene que ver un consejero es porque, you're crazy, right? But there can be that stigmatism with some of the patients that we see, but we're really trying to bring out that this is normal, that this is good, that this is something that we can all benefit from, and also offer it at a low cost. And so with our collaborative, we currently have already exceeded our expectations for 6 months out that we were thinking. And one of the things that's really cool, we have private office space for free. So an LCSW or a licensed professional counselor can use that space for free. Free rent, free utilities, as long as a certain percentage of their clients are our clients. So kind of like, the incubator model with Cortex and how there's this business model going to get synergy together. That's what we're doing, but with the collaborative. So if you know of anybody who could use that, send them our way. But also, if you know of individuals, spouses, or that come maybe and don't have work permits or don't have visas but would want to be involved, people who are looking to adjust to getting used to the system and how office works, like please send them our way. And then also our Friends of CASA affiliate group is really looking to connect with employee resource groups around the area to help with fundraising and community awareness. So that's my spiel.
No questions here or so yes?
Yes, we got about 3 minutes for questions.
Perfect. So, yeah.
Overview, everything is great, but you mentioned, try to get people that they're undocumented or all these steps. How is Casa de Salud covered from I used to come a lo que son and do una redada y empezar a hacer cosas así?
Yeah. So we don't collect any information on patients, which is very intentional in the sense that obviously we collect, names and we're keeping track of medical information, but we don't ask for socials, we don't ask. So partially, if someone were ever to come and demand that information, we can honestly say that that's not something that we keep track of.
Yeah, because when someone is sick, it doesn't matter, we are going to be sick and we need help from an immigrant, whoever, so Programs has to help us if we're dying.
Right.
So, but they wanted, if everybody's afraid now to go anywhere.
Yes.
So.
No, and that's one of the things we're really trying to be conscious about. And so we've had staff meetings together of how will we respond if this were to happen, and what are the protocols and the procedures. And so that's definitely something that we're thinking about as a staff, because our patient safety is a priority, and also just helping connect people with organizations where they know their rights. Because we don't do the legal services of the other, but we can do healthcare, and we want to try to do that well, and then connect people with other resources.
Does it salute all Hispanics or all kinds of languages?
Yeah, so this past year we had patients from 60 nationalities. So 60 nationalities. So while I would say 80% to 85% are Hispanic, we have, Arabic speakers, French speakers, Mandarin speakers, Vietnamese, Bosnian, all over. And as an organization, we're trying to be more accessible for other languages. So we'll provide interpreters on site for free for anybody.
So feel free to ask the young lady for her business card before you guys leave tonight, and do some networking with her, and make sure you can give her some referrals for any volunteers. Casa de Salud is very close to my heart also, so get out there and help them.
So as we listen to these different topics, one of the, it's already come up in the context of healthcare, is the immigration issue. And as many of us are already first or second generation, one of the privileges that we have, that when I talk about mobilizing your privilege, is your legality. Your legal status allows you a privilege that many people in our community don't have. So when we talk about, it can be speaking up at work, whatever kind of moves you, getting involved in one way or the other, making sure that you're, Mauricio is pushing, let's educate voters and make sure that everybody who wants to vote knows how to vote. That's all privilege, right? That's something that we have, and we can mobilize for the people that need help. That's what we're talking about, right? That maybe need more help. We all need help in one way or another, but need help in a way that we can provide it, and that's one of the things. So, next.
Bolivian Society.
The Bolivian Society, cultural preservation, near and dear to my heart as a mother who takes my children to these festivities. We could never, I could read them 1,000 books and show them 1,000 YouTube videos, but it's never going to be the same as actually going to a community event and playing with children who are speaking in Spanish, hearing, seeing the dynamics within our culture. So, cultural preservation.
Buenas tardes. Buenas noches, yeah. My name is Maria Yaxich. I am from Bolivia. I've been here since 1980. I came here to get my education. I came to get my education here. I'm very fortunate to the fact that I'm a very privileged individual. I managed to have received my citizenship here because I have children, and I was concerned that maybe in the future there would be some issues with some legalities, so I decided to go ahead and get my citizenship. I've been fortunate in the sense that I have had many roles in this society. Initially, I was a banker, then I became a mom, and then I decided to go to education. So I worked about 20 plus years in the educational field. One of the areas that I did a lot of work with Hispanic was through a program called Parents as Teachers, where I visit the homes of parents and counsel them and help them with education for their children from birth to 5 years of age. But then I decided to change one more thing in my life, and I became now an agent, a real estate agent, which has given me the opportunity to see how much a lot of people take advantage of the Latinos because they don't know enough of the situation. I encountered not long ago a fellow that was paying 22.5% for a car loan, and he had already paid for 3 years. And so in situations where documents were made up so they could get a house, but they cost them $10,000 to additional to get this. And it's unfortunate, but it does happen. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe that it is. But the role that I am trying to talk to you about tonight is, as a Bolivian that has had that privilege, I have encountered many situations where the perception of us Latinos and Hispanic is so negative. In the sense that we are not educated, that we're here just to smooch from the American people. And I think we, educated individuals, can really bring out those conversations and talk more about what really we are about and what does it mean, all this misinformation that is being given out. I mean, not long ago I was talking about this issue that, as a teacher that had been and worked with kids, that just broke me apart was this separation of mothers and parents and children. I mean, I was in tears for several days and not knowing how to solve the problem. And then I kept on talking to people about it. And a lot of people, Americans, their reaction was, well, you know, they're not really their kids, they just pawn them off to them. And I said, it doesn't matter if they pawn them off, it doesn't matter. A parent took that child with the belief that they will be better off in a different country, regardless of who they took them. It's still a child. And if we don't respect the human rights of children, we are nobody. And I think what my biggest problem is that we as foreigners and Hispanics were not as active and boisterous and able to get across to people that they are human beings. Today, I was involved with taking out of a shackle of an individual that has had it for 20 months. They had these little monitors that they have just because they crossed the border illegally. And this person said, last week it went off and I was with it since Saturday, and it was beeping and it was vibrating and it was saying, call your person. And that whole weekend, the whole people in the whole house had this disturbance. They couldn't sleep because they had to wait till Monday to get it fixed. So, I mean, this is how we're talking about things that people don't realize that is happening here. You know, and I think our role as Hispanics, a privilege that we can talk without the consequence of being deported, is that we need to let people know that these things are happening to really normal individuals. And if we concentrate on what really the United States stands for, you know, that all men are equal and the pursuit of happiness, liberty, you know, I think we're missing out completely. It didn't say you have to be born here. It just said all men are equal. And so my stand is that we, as Hispanics, we really have to make a bigger effort and to really talk about the issues and clarify this misunderstanding and misinformation that is being fed to a lot of them in the sense of what really is happening to the Hispanics that are looking for a better world, happiness, and caring for their children. I mean, that is really what we are. So my request to you is talk about it, and most of all, vote. You know, we are a power. We are so many. When we talk about how the percentage that she said, we are a force. Let's make it show. Let's make it really count that we are here and we're staying. And we are going to take care of everybody. Thank you.
Please stand up again. I know you're very passionate about your organization. I listened to her talk for the Bolivian Independence Gala last weekend, and it was very much like this on steroids, okay? So, but I wanted you to tell our audience, how long has the Bolivian Society been in St. Louis?
We are one of the luckiest organizations because we have been in existence continuously for 52 years.
Wow.
In St. Louis.
In St. Louis. And we continuously have events that are almost monthly. And our goal is, of course, to maintain the culture, but we pursue two main things. That we are we are what do you call it?
Non-for-profit.
Non-for-profit, because we support scholarships, and we were so fortunate that 2 weekends ago we were able to give 2 scholarships to 2 Venezuelan native-borns that needed to go to school and pursue their education. And I personally was super, super, super happy because Bolivia, if you know, is landlocked, okay? But we have a Navy. And do you know where the Navy people have to go for training? They go to Venezuela. So, in my opinion, I felt so excited that here there were these 2 that applied for our scholarship. We were able to give them some money, and I felt like, we did a little bit of a return back to them because, again, all our Navy officers go to Venezuela for training because we just don't have sea, we don't have rivers, So, but that is my thing, is that we are very fortunate to have been able to do this.
Thank you.
So,
3-minute candidate.
thank you for your 3 minutes. So talking about the border, the children separated at the border, statements obviously that we know about crimes against humanity. But one of the big things is, I think, another thing is because as Hispanics, as privileged Hispanics, and I love that term, I'm going to steal it, as privileged Hispanics who have citizenship, and maybe it was your parents who dealt with all of the attorneys and the paperwork, and you don't know. But in order to request asylum here in the United States, by the treaties that we are signatory, international treaties that we are signatory to, you must be present. You can't send a postcard to ask for political asylum here. You can't say, hey, it's really bad here, would you mind sending me some paperwork? Here's my PO box. You can't do that. You have to be physically present. And that's something that we don't always know, right? That just because we're Hispanic, we don't know the laws on that. You can request asylum independent of how you entered the country, and regardless of your current, regardless of how you entered the country, and independent of your current immigration status. So it doesn't matter how you came in, and it doesn't matter if you're legal or illegal at that moment. You can request asylum. Why is this important? We have a judge here tonight. I would submit that some of the recent political developments suggest less than a pristine respect for the rule of law that exists in this country. We have the rule of law. We don't live in a country, and many of our parents fled or moved for economic reasons, one reason or another, countries where there is not rule of law. And we have the rule of law here. And what happens when you request asylum? Well, there's a procedure. There's some stuff, and it's written down, steps to be taken, 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't just grab the kids and take them away. That's just not what is written down and what is in the rule of law. And it doesn't matter whether you're Syrian or Mexican or Central American, whether you left because of, once you request that, make that request. There are procedures that need to be followed and the rule of law that needs to be followed. And certainly you want to keep track of any children that you might separate in one way or another. So that's important. When we talk about ambassadors, and Maria talks about speaking up about what's happening, and you hear rhetoric that starts off, well, they came here illegally, they requested asylum, they followed procedure. You must be in person. You must be here in person. And there's nothing in those laws that say you must have a DNA link to the child that is with you. I would also submit that whatever percentage of children, there may be a percentage of children that were, can you imagine as a parent giving somebody your child and saying, save my child? Take him to America, take her to America. So any percentage that isn't, for whatever reason, biologically related, may have that But there's also, of course, any number, I mean, children were taken from their mother's arms who were breastfeeding. So I don't know what more biological, I mean, that's maybe not a DNA test, but it's certainly strong empirical evidence that parenting, an actual parent-child relationship existed. So the biggest thing for me is the rule of law that I feel is being attacked, but again in a nonpartisan way. Not that I am nonpartisan, but just for the group, nonpartisan. Being aware of what the actual laws are. We need to start from the point of factual accuracy in order to have good discussions. So we'll move on to, I think it's now...
3 minutes for Mr. Carretero.
Okay. Mr. Carretero.
All right, so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Joe Carretero. I'm an immigrant here. I came here when I was 10 years old. Just to tell you a little bit about myself. Went to Bishopsburg, went in the Marine Corps, retired from the military 40 years as a sergeant major. And been with the police department going on 25 years. I'm a sergeant. I'm a patrol sergeant. I know Sergeant Christy Allen was here probably a few months ago to talk about recruiting for the police department. This is the first time, probably many years, that the St. Louis Police Department is actually making a dedicated effort to recruit Hispanics into the ranks. Okay, it's very important to have a diverse group of individuals working law enforcement here in St. Louis. I know, many people think of St. Louis as, well, you got African American, and then you got, usually white people and all that. Okay, but there are really a lot of groups in the St. Louis area, including probably the most recent one, the Bosnian refugees. Okay, that whole group. They have filled the ranks with a lot of officers that speak Bosnian. They can relate to the population. They can, deal with their problems, their particular issues, and all that. So again, I'm just here to make a pitch for the police department. Again, they are serious about hiring Hispanics. You have to be a citizen, and obviously, your record should be pretty clean and all that. And if anybody's interested, please come and see me. As a matter of fact, they even went as far as making pamphlets in Spanish. Okay, we do have an issue with not having enough Spanish-speaking officers. I mean, almost every night I'm on patrol, so I'm out there with people. All right, I'm not in the office downtown or anything like that. So I'm out there, and especially in the first district, almost every night. Is there a Spanish-speaking officer? Is there a Spanish-speaking officer? Okay. So we have very few Hispanic officers in the police department, and we're trying to, I was asked to, see if you can convey that to the Hispanic community. I know some of you know me. My brother's Miguel from Guidos, and my other brother wants to be hopefully a judge here someday. That's about it.
Question. How many police officers are there? I've heard that there's a lot of vacancies.
Yes.
And what about the residency?
Okay. Well, the residency, there's no way out of that. You have to be in the city. You have to live in the city of St. Louis for 7 years. So you can't get out. I mean, unless the law changes, the Board of Aldermen changed that. We recently just got a $6,000 raise, which is very nice. We were really behind the program on a lot of these police departments in the area, and that's why we're losing a lot of people. Okay, I think we're down 140 officers. Okay, which is huge. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but that is a lot. So the opportunities are there. The job openings are there. I can hook you up. If you know somebody that's interested in law enforcement, I can hook you up.
Is there a website where people can get online and apply for that?
Just www.slmpd.org.
But what better than the sergeant here?
And I do have some pamphlets I'm going to leave here, and it's got some numbers. And Christy Allen is one of the actual recruiters for the police department, so she can bring you in. Also, there's a program called the Cadet Program, and it's very small, but they're taking I think it starts at 17, 18-year-olds and up to about 21, and they're getting them. It's a cadet program where they study, or they meet like once or twice a week, and they learn about law enforcement. They have mentors. They show them how the police academy is going to be. Okay, so they don't fail. Okay, so that program is also available, and I can put you in touch with that. Okay, because again, you have to be 21 to be a police officer. Yes, ma'am.
Did I hear you say that the applicant must be U.S. citizen?
Yes, they have to be. To be a police officer, law enforcement, you have to be a United States citizen.
So no green card applications?
What?
Someone that has a green card?
No.
No?
Nobody has green card anymore.
American Express, my God.
No.
You have to be American.
That's it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
By the way, he was a good treasurer, but he
I
was a
have a
treasurer
question.
here. When he was a treasurer.
Yes, Elena.
What is the requirement? If I know, if somebody came to me and says, I would like to be a police officer in the city or whatever,
Okay.
so they have to have a college degree, and they enjoy the ground after high school. What is the requirement?
Well, they have to be, I believe they have to have like 30 college credits. That is a requirement right now. So basically it's about a year in college, somewhere around there, okay? 21 years old, citizen. Again, your record has to be fairly clean. I mean, I'm not talking about maybe I got a ticket the other day or speeding ticket. I mean, that's permissible, but you know, your records have to be pretty clean. And you know, that's about it. Salary, I think it starts out now at close to $41,000 with the raise here for just a brand new recruit. And we are just one more thing. We are one of the few agencies in the state of Missouri that will pay you full benefits and a salary going through the police academy. A lot of these other agencies, you know, the St. Louis County, they go through the academy, they have to pay themselves, and then they try to get hired by different police departments and all that. So, you know, it's got good benefits. Again, you know, vacation, health benefits. You know, it's a challenging job, especially now in the America of 2018, okay? But it's very rewarding because you're helping people. And let me tell you, I know a lot of people say, well, there's no Hispanics here. Yeah, there's a lot of Hispanics in this city. We just cannot capture them. I mean, I'm saying capture them, we just don't know where they're at. But yes, there's a lot of Hispanics in this town that, you know, I come across because, again, you know, I'm out there in the streets, I'm patrolling the streets, I got people working for me, and they always, you know.
How many Spanish speaker?
Spanish speaking? I would say there's probably less than maybe 6 or 7. Very, very few.
Yeah, so you're, but thank you very much. And everybody, feel free to ask Mr. before he leaves here tonight. If you have any other questions that come up while we're meeting here. Okay, so now we're going to have our special guest tonight, and I'll have Matt Vianello. But what I wanted to tell our special guests, as you can see, these are leaders and representatives from different Hispanic organizations like the Hispanic Chamber, Casa de Salud, the Bolivian Society, so on and so forth. We have Venezuelan here from the Venezuelan Association. But I wanted to tell you is that our organization, our community, the Hispanic community, is very passionate. We're very community-minded, and we're very leadership-minded. We want to be able to be leaders for our children. And, for example, the Hispanic Chamber has 2 types of leadership programs. Can you get up and tell us briefly, real briefly, because
We can
I'm getting convinced.
So tell us only one thing about you.
No, just
So
about
we
the
just do
two.
two programs. We do a Hispanic Leadership Institute for Hispanic professionals in the area. It's a 9-month training program that covers various leadership competencies. And then we just launched last year a high school Hispanic Leadership Institute for Hispanic students in the area that covers all of Collinsville, Illinois, all the way to St. Charles and everything in between.
Thank you so much. We're very successful at it.
I
So now,
can
without
vouch
further
for both
ado,
programs.
you what?
I can vouch for both programs.
There you
Going
go.
through it.
You went for one and send the daughter for the other. Got it, see? So that's what we're all about. Matt, if you can come up. Sure.
My name is Matt Vieanello, and I was contacted by the Missouri Bar to come and speak about the Missouri Nonpartisan Court Plan, which is how all of our judges, Supreme Court, Court of Appeals judges, and most trial court judges become judges. With me is Judge Jim Dowd, who is on the Missouri Court of Appeals for the Eastern District, which is located downtown at 8th and Olive. It's in the old post office, which is a beautiful building if you get a chance to ever go down and see it. Judge Dowd was the Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals for the Eastern District from July 1st, 2016 until this past June 30th, when he relinquished his throne to Judge Lisa Page. During that year, Judge Dowd was involved in the appointment of 14 different judges in St. Louis City and St. Louis County. He's been on the bench since 2015 when Governor Nixon appointed him, and he's graciously offered to come out here and speak with me so that I'm not just up here by myself waiting. Before I get into any details on this plan, I wanted to mention that there was a Supreme Court judge who was going to present with me today, and she ended up saying that she couldn't present with me because I have a case pending in the Missouri Supreme Court right now. The reason she didn't want to present with me is because she didn't want to give off any appearance to anybody that she's chummy with me, that because we're presenting that it somehow means that she's going to rule on a case anyway, even though I would never expect that she would, but it's giving off that appearance of impropriety. And that is why the Missouri Nonpartisan Court Plan exists. It's been around in Missouri since 1940, and is a constitutional amendment that arose because you had a gentleman named Tom Pendergast in Kansas City, who many considered him to be a mob boss, and he controlled the police force, he controlled the judges. They were all partisan elections, so he would get the candidates that he wanted, he would give them all of their money, they would get on the bench, and the idea, I'm sure he hoped, was that they would then rule in his favor on any cases that he was involved in. This led to Missouri citizens becoming disillusioned with their courts, thinking that there's no justice because I'm going to go in and the judge has already been followed. Whether that's true or not, you want to avoid that. A judge is supposed to be impartial. A judge is, if you're familiar with the phrase justice is blind, that's what a judge is supposed to look at, or what we would all hope is that the judge views the case through a nonpartisan, non-partial lens. So the court plan was created, and the way it works, without getting into too much detail, is that there are non-lawyer commissioners, there are lawyer commissioners, and there's a judge who presides over every application. That's for the trial court level. Same thing for the court of appeals. Anybody who wants to apply can apply, so long as they're qualified. Frank has applied, I've applied, and the judge has applied for the Court of Appeals once, twice. It is a grueling process in a lot of ways that Judge Dowd will talk about in a little more detail. And my hope in coming to these meetings is to encourage people to get involved in this process. This isn't just for lawyers like the three of us, the four of us. It's for every single person here to be able to look and see who's applying and encourage the people that you know to apply, encourage organizations like this and other organizations that you're involved in to call the Judge Dowds of the world who are presiding over these panels and say, we've known Frank Carretero for 20 years. Frank has done a great job. He's helped us in all these different ways, and we think that he would make a great judge. It's not just about what the lawyer friends of Frank thinks or my lawyer friends. You all have the ability to participate in this process. And it doesn't matter the initial participation. It doesn't matter if you're a citizen, which I know is an issue here. It doesn't matter if you have a green card. Frankly, it doesn't matter if you're here legally or illegally. There's a process of it that is not voting. It's calling. It's lobbying. It's encouraging people to run. It's encouraging the judges, the commissioners to accept your recommendation. There's another part of this process which actually is voting related, and you won't see Judge Dowd on the ballot this year, probably 10 years. So you're up again. And these are called the retention elections that many of you may have seen when you go to the ballot. Now, I'm going to talk about it briefly, and then I'm going to turn over to Judge Dowd and talk about this. These retention elections that you see, Judge Dowd was on the ballot in 2016, and it'll say, should Judge Dowd be retained? Meaning, should Judge Dowd keep his job? The reason why that's there is so, you don't have to, enough people voted for him and said that he got to keep his job, so he's not worried about it. But
I will tell you that when the results were scrolling and were on the bottom of the TV, and I got like 730,000 votes for me, and my wife was sitting next to me and said, that's really good. And then it became like 365,000 voted against me. And she went, who are those people? And I said, those are all the neighbors you're fighting with.
What happens a lot is, many of you may have heard this before, where somebody says, well, I don't know who any of these judges are, so I'm going to just say, I'm going to vote all the bums out. Or I don't know who the 50-50, yeah. Or I don't know who the judges are, so I guess they're doing a good job. And what I will tell you, as my last thing before I turn this over to Judge Dowd, and I'm sure I'll talk more here, is to encourage you to take more interest in seeing who the judges are who are up for retention election. Just because you haven't heard of them doesn't mean that they're doing a bad job. And the analogy that I like to give people is, you had Governor Parson here 2 months ago. I'm sure that Governor Parson talked about what some of his agenda items are for the next 2 years, maybe the next 6 years. I'm sure that you've had legislators come in here and say, I just filed a bill in Jeff City, and this is what that bill is going to do. Well, if somebody tells you that they filed a bill in Jeff City or in Washington, D.C., what does that do for your life? And in the short term, absolutely nothing. Because before a bill can become law, it has to take many steps. It's going to change. It may never get out of committee. It may never get to the point where a governor can sign it or a president can sign it. If you appear in front of Judge Dowd, or you appear in front of a trial court judge, though, if you're a victim, if you're accused of something, if you are suing somebody, if you're getting a divorce, whatever it may be, fighting for custody, the decision that that judge makes is going to have a very real, very immediate, and possibly very profound impact on your life. It's going to affect you, it's going to affect your family members, possibly having a much wider reach than that. And I would encourage you all to pay attention to who these judges are because of that impact that they have on your life. Because they're not just pre-filing a bill that may or may not become law. They're making a decision that affects you and affects other people in this community, and it's important that they be treated with the same maybe skepticism that a legislator is treated with when they're asking you for their vote. So in that regard, I'm going to turn it over to Judge Dowd and fill in wherever I can, and then if you have any questions.
Thank you. Matt has been presenting these presentations for how long?
2 years,
How many?
20 or 30 maybe now.
He's done them all over. He unilaterally took this up and started doing this, isn't paid for it, and he really does a great service to the Missouri Bar and to the Missouri Nonpartisan Court Plan. I want to elaborate a little bit on the process. This year I have 14 openings in the city and in the county. As the Chief Judge of the Missouri Court of Appeals, I had the privilege of being the chairman of the commission that selects the 3 finalists in the city and the commission that selects the 3 finalists in the county. 2 different commissions. The city has its own commission, the county has its own commission. There are 2 lawyers on each commission. Those lawyers are elected by the rest of the lawyers in the city. They run. They run for this commission spot. And they're staggered terms. And then 2 lay people are appointed by the governor. And those lay people are appointed in staggered terms. So that generally looking for not the same governor appointing both lay commissioners. And then the Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals. So there's 5 of us on the commission. And when an opening occurs, a judge retires, a judge resigns, a judge dies, we solicit within the bar, within our publications, applications. Frank and Matt have both submitted applications in this process. The application goes to all 5 commissioners. All 5 commissioners are open to personal interviews with the applicants. For the city applicants, we generally have between 30 and 35 applicants for each opening. And then the commission has a public interview. In fact, Judge Price, who I think spoke to you all at some point, he engineered some changes when he was the Chief Judge of the Missouri Supreme Court to allow for a public interview of the commission, the 5 commissioners and all of the applicants coming in individually one after another for an interview. And the public is invited to attend those events. Nobody comes. We have one lady who comes. She's like one of us now. I don't know. I think it was, frankly, and a lot of people thought when that change was made that it was just window dressing. That it was just, this is all done in the back room, and so we need to open this up, when it was sort of a solution looking for a problem that really didn't exist. What we do in this process is, when we get the application, and it's an involved application, it's basically, when I sat down with Governor Nixon, the time that he appointed me in his office in Jeff City, the first thing he said to me was, so how do you like your proctology exam? Because that's about like what it is. It is an involved process. You're asking people to call for you, to write for you, and really, so these 5 commissioners, the purpose of this was in order to take this from the voters, so that we don't have, partisan elections of 2 lawyers running to become a judge. And just imagine what that means. If you ran to be a judge, who are you going to get your money from to run? Lawyers. Who else is going to give you money? Maybe your mom? And then those lawyers appear in front of you. In most of the counties in Missouri, in the circuit courts, the trial courts, counties, they still run for office. And so we've tried to replace that. We've tried to take the politics out of it. So the 5 commissioners, they need to hear from people, because they're basically replacing the voters. They're replacing the citizens in picking these judges. I just want to submit to you that, do you remember the last scandal involving a city or county or Court of Appeals or Supreme Court judge? I don't. The last time somebody said, that guy's on the tape, that she did this, that's her uncle, she ruled for him, that's a big campaign con. You don't hear it. It's because the nonpartisan court plan works. Ask Frank Carretero. He has been in this process for a while. But I think the judges you've appeared in front of, the nonpartisan court plan appointed judges, do you have any question that those judges are just trying to do the right thing? I'm not on the ballot for 10 more years. The purpose of that is so that I don't have to worry. I can just make the calls I have to make. I rule against my friends. I have friends who appear in front of me. That's the way it goes. That's how it's supposed to be. Let me just address one thing about Hispanic participation in the process, and in particular Hispanic applicants. During my year, we have had 2 Hispanic applicants, Frank Carretero and Michael Brockman, whose mother is from Bolivia, I believe. He's English high, speaks Spanish. I mean, the rules that we are governed by require the commission to consider the gender and demographic makeup of the applicants. We're still supposed to pick the 3 best qualified, but we are supposed to consider the demographic and gender makeup of the applicants. And of course we do it.
As it relates to the pool, or as it relates to the bench in general?
As it relates to that I think the language in the rule says that the court shall consider the gender and demographic characteristics of the community in reviewing the applicant, something like that, some language like that. And I took that very seriously on gender, we have our first quadriplegic judge in the city of St. Louis. That is a diversity that I thought was very important that it be represented. We had we don't have a Jewish judge in the city of St. Louis, and we had one on a panel. She made a panel twice, I think. I think that's very important. We had a Jewish judge on our court, Patty Cohen. She then became a federal magistrate. That was a loss. I see that loss when we have court conference, when we talk amongst each other. That was a loss. It's not like she's coming in with the Torah and saying, this is what we have to do. That's not what I'm talking about. It's diversity of thought. It's diversity of background. It's a different perspective. We need a Hispanic judge in the city of St. Louis. Sorry, man. We need that Vianello in the city of St. Louis, too.
I do want to say something really quickly with that, though. I understand personally that in coming out here and speaking to the Hispanic Leaders Group, maybe I say something that encourages some of you to tell your lawyer friends to run, to tell Frank to not stop. And if that means that I somehow hurt my ability to become a judge in the city of St. Louis, then so be it. Because my feeling about it is that it needs to represent the community. The judges need to represent the community, and whatever that may be. And fortunately or unfortunately, I am a white male. I understand that, and with that, from a diversity standpoint, comes some disadvantages when you're looking for a diverse bench. And again, so be it. The best applicant pool is going to be the largest applicant. It's going to be a collection of lawyers who make the judge's job as difficult as possible. It's going to be the people who have the most experience, who have the most organizations calling on their behalf to say, this is the person that needs to be on the bench. And if that's not me, then the person who got that spot is the person who deserved to be there. If it is me, then hopefully I'm the person who deserved to be there. Same thing with Frank. But I should deserve to be there if I'm supposed to, out of 100 people, out of 1,000 people, out of 5 people, whatever it may be. And we're going to get the best judges that we can through encouraging as many people as possible to apply. And so, again,
let me tell you why I agree with that. Let me tell you why I think I'll give you a little perspective of what has informed me. As Irish as I look, I consider myself an honorary Hispanic. I lived 4 years in Spain. My wife is from Spain, and I love the Spanish language. I love the Hispanic culture. I really hablo un poco de español. Les cuento una historia. Mi mujer era traductora. Incluso era la primera que aprobó el examen en el estado de Missouri de traductora certificada. Y como era tan buena, pues le mandaban a todos los juicios, violaciones, todas las molestaciones de niños, y le quemaba mucho. Pero un caso que me informó que hace falta esa perspectiva hispana en los juzgados. And here it is. She was, it was a alleged rape, and I think it was a Mexican American or a Mexican defendant, a white victim, and it was up in St. Charles. And so they arrest him, and they bring him in, and they bring in like the secretary from the police department who knew a little Spanish to come and interpret. And they record him. And he was saying, you know how some Hispanic, certainly in Spain, when you're not saying you're agreeing with something, you're just sort of saying, I understand, you say, yeah. So they were saying, and you then raped her. And the interpreter said, he said yes. And a few other questions that were very incriminating. And this guy, and my wife would come home and she said, I can't say anything because I'm sworn not to say anything, but he's getting railroaded in the worst way. And they're playing the tape, and it's horrible. And I don't know if it was discrimination, I don't know if it was racism, I don't know if the judge sort of had this implicit bias, or if it was just pure ignorance. But he got convicted, and that was one of the things I went, that's not right. And if you have a Hispanic judge on a bench, the rest of the judges are going to start, judges, they all go to lunch together, they all get together. There's things that judges can do. You're on committees, you're on Judge Draper, who's on the Missouri Supreme Court, he pushes, and he hired my wife a whole bunch of times and loved her. He pushes the level of interpreters so that it's high, so that interpreters are available, so that they're professional. I mean, there's different ways you can do it, but unless you have that diversity of perspective, things like that happen. Yes, sir.
Question. Is Missouri the only state that has a similar plan?
So, the Missouri plan, it's called the Missouri plan because it's been adopted, copied by about 38 states in some version or another.
Okay.
That's good.
Did I say a falsehood?
Well, I think it's closer to 30.
Okay.
Either way, I think this might actually say.
Hey, let me submit this to you. There are what we call attacks on the plan. Periodically, either the legislature or they try to do a ballot initiative to get rid of the plan and to go to some either elections or direct appointment with, like the federal, with consent by the Senate. Governor makes the appointment and the Senate advises and consents. In any of those campaigns that they've had, again, none of them have demonstrated it's not working. Because facts get in the way sometimes, right? None of them have shown, well, here's the problem. The problem is, we're not getting justice, the judges are all on the take, or whatever. None of that is happening because it's about power. When that, they think, is the way they can control the judiciary. If they control the judiciary, once they control the legislature and the governor's mansion, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, doesn't matter to me. Once you control the judiciary, who's going to check what the other two branches are doing? That's why the Missouri plan is so, and it doesn't, it's not sexy. You know, it's sort of like, well, you have a commission and you apply, but it's meant to be that way. It's meant to be a merit-based plan where we're really truly looking at the merit of the applicants, and it's working. I want to invite all of you down to the Missouri Court of Appeals. If you have a group you want to come down and watch oral argument, if you want, I want to make that invitation to you. You can call me or talk to my assistant. Happy to do it. And most people really enjoy that process. But yeah, it's the Missouri plan.
So I want to give some information on how you can, well, get more information about the applicants. There's been a lot of vacancies because at age 70, the law says that judges have to retire. That's slowed down a little bit, but pretty soon here we're going to have a bunch of vacancies on the Missouri Supreme Court and on the Court of Appeals, one here pretty soon. So with that in mind, I want to explain how you can find out more information about when there's a vacancy and who's applying. What I would recommend you first do is go to the website courts.mo.gov. So courts.mo for Missouri.gov. There are press releases that come out whenever there's a vacancy that says we're accepting applications for this court. The next one on Judge Dowd's court will be, I think, in March, when they're going to fill Lisa's spot.
Hopefully sooner.
And it's going to invite people to apply. It's at that point that you can say, well, we need to get somebody, an inclusive candidate, to apply. Who would be good on the Court of Appeals? And encourage that person to apply. Then you can see another press release which will show who has applied for whatever the vacancy is. And I have copies of them. It explains how many people have applied, the gender, the age, ethnicity, well, minority versus non-minority. It's too difficult to ask the specific question of where you're from. So it has all of this information, then you can see it. Lists who the commissioners are. You can find out how to contact them. And what I encourage everyone to do, and this is not, maybe Judge Dowd would say that they don't like it, but I don't think he can say that here, is call the commissioners. Tell them if you like someone. Tell them your experience, and it doesn't just have to be a legal interaction with somebody. It could be that you're part of an organization with somebody, that they helped you out in some experience, some situation, and you don't know if that's going to make them a good judge or not, but what you could say is that they're a good person. Or alternatively, if somebody is an awful person and you're seeing them apply, the judge may get inundated with an applicant's friends calling them, who are all going to say, this is the greatest person ever. Sometimes it's good to get an unfiltered reaction from somebody who's not enlisted to help that person apply. After the commission meets these people and interviews them, they have to choose 3 people. Whatever the vacancy is, they have to choose 3 people. Those 3 people are submitted to the governor, who has to appoint one of the 3 people within 60 days. So the governor gets to choose one of the 3 people, but the governor can't say, I don't like any of these people, let's start over. It doesn't work. And no governor has ever said, I'm not going to appoint one of the 3 candidates, because then it goes back to the commission who gets to choose. And at this point, it's the same thing. Once you see who goes up to the governor, then you can call the governor's office and tell them the same information if it's somebody who you like or don't. And this is a way that anybody can get involved in this initial process of who's becoming a judge. So encouraging people to apply, supporting them in their application with the commissioners and then with the governor's office. Then there's the retention election. This is the, either vote the bums out or you don't know who they are, so you're going to vote for them. On this pamphlet that I sent out, prepared by the Missouri Bar, there's a website at the bottom of it called MissouriPlan.com. And every October, information comes out about every judge who's going to be on the ballot. Every court of appeals judge who in your area you have the ability to vote for, every Supreme Court judge if there are any ever, and every trial court judge. For those of you who live in St. Louis County, or St. Louis City, but more so St. Louis County right now, I think there's going to be 20 or so judges who are up for retention just because of how many vacancies there were within a short period of time. The information that's provided is not just the judges who are up for retention, but it's what the jurors have to say about them. It's what the practicing lawyers have to say about them. So if any of you have ever served on a jury, they're supposed to give you one of those questionnaire at the end that asks you questions. It's anonymous. It says, was the judge timely? Was he or she angry? Some generic questions, but to get to some character traits of this person. You can see what the other jurors, or what jurors have said about these people. You can see what lawyers have to say about them. And I would recommend that you pay attention to those numbers and draw whatever conclusion you want from them. And I'm not going to tell you the ratings are from 0 to 5, and then it's an average. I'm not going to tell you what a good number is. That's for you to decide.
Can I interrupt you?
Sure.
There is a opening right now in St. Louis County. And in fact, the commission is meeting tomorrow and tomorrow's Friday to do their public interviews and select the 3 finalists. I won't use names, but there are a couple of associate circuit judges who are applying for the full circuit spot. And their bar poll, the numbers he's talking about, is the bar poll. The lawyers rate the judges. One of the judges' numbers was very low. And that judge is that is a big issue. I mean, I hear all the chatter because we all talk about it, because people are seeing who's looking good, who's looking strong. These bar polls matter. And so when you see the bar poll, these lawyers, it's anonymous, so the lawyer doesn't have to put their name on it, and most lawyers are pretty conscientious about it. That bar poll sticks with that judge, and that tells you a lot. And those bar polls get published on the Missouri Plan website, and then I think the Post-Dispatch ends up putting them in some form right before the election.
So Sure. What's the criteria for the so-called poll of the lawyers? How many questions are there? How do you judge a judge?
I think it's 6 or 7 questions.
I have to look it up. But
are they conscientious? Have they good demeanor? Are they, rule quickly? Are they clear in their legal thinking? Stuff like that. So it's sort of everything you want in a good judge, and you have a chance to say.
And it's even for the juror surveys. I think one of them is the judge respectful of the people in court, which is an important question. If you go to court and the judge is favoring one side over the other, well, and they're visibly angry with one lawyer or one party, I'd say that's probably not a good thing.
On the commission, we are looking, I've been around this process for about, I was born in 1964, and my father was appointed under the Missouri Nonpartisan Court Plan in 1965. And then again in 69, I have 2 brothers who are judges. One is on my court, one's a judge in the circuit court in the city of St. Louis. My cousin used to be on the Court of Appeals where I am now. But I've been around this for a long time, and we have a phrase in my family, it's called judgeitis. It's also called robitis. It's basically where you get a black, and we go, put a black robe on him? I don't think so. You get the black robe on and you think you were anointed and not appointed. And so my goal during this entire interview process, and I think I had about 400 personal interviews this past year of 45 minutes or an hour long. My wife is so happy that year is over, let me tell you. My number one goal is to look for humility. Because anybody who's not humble, you put a black robe on them and forget about it. And my questions, and you remember, I'm always looking for somebody who's going to say, I'd say, what are the most important qualities of the judge? I want somebody to say, the judge should be the most humble public servant in the room, not the other way around. And you can get there in the nonpartisan court plan, where you can't in a partisan election. Because partisan elections, campaigning is antithetical to that. So.
3 minutes.
I'm going to add here, I just want to add something as a practitioner, just because the humility is taught. And so I've been in private practice for a while now, but as a public defender, I was in the trial office, and then I moved to appeals. And I also did what's called post-conviction relief. And we don't need to go into those details, but what that took me is from the city, where I had practiced for several years, also out into what we call outstate Missouri, so where it is not this plan that we're talking about, they're elected officials. And without getting into name calling or too many details, I'm just going to say it's noticeable. It's a tangible difference when you have a judge that is not an elected official. I think that and I really actually don't want to speak poorly of it's just a different beast, it's a different process, and that is something where we've been talking about calling and getting involved. The people in this room do not have the concerns about contacting the authorities that some people in our community do, right? So we can call, and this is a great opportunity for unity amongst our groups. We have different cultures, but we know Frank is on the bench. My God, we should be picking up the phone, whether you are a Bolivian or Dominican or whatever heritage, we should be supporting. Now,
for you guys, where you guys go.
Yeah, if we thought Frank was not qualified, we wouldn't support him. I'm not saying we support somebody who thinks he's not qualified.
And I encourage all of you to support Frank. Yes.
I just became citizen 3 years ago. I'm still learning the voting. First time ever, I went to the ones yesterday, and I got excited that I got to choose the. Oh, okay, I'm supposed to say
Congratulations.
But because I have an accent and stuff, and I came, and then they make you do it by the computer and select who are you going to vote for. So that's private. But then you have in this table all these people that I'm sorry, like everybody was really. I just don't want it. O sea, eran bien viejitos. ¿Cómo puedo decir eso? Like they were older, but they did not understand my language a little bit. So then, who are you voting for? Besides me writing it down, I had to tell them. So they asked me for everybody, and that's supposed to be private. And so I'm like, democracy.
That's not right.
So I said democratic, and she goes, what? Democratic. Like, so I had to say it for everybody, okay?
They asked me because then based on that,
I took my passport, and my passport says I was born in El Salvador. So the guy is like looking over and over and taking my pass. I felt it was really strange.
So in the election that you voted in yesterday, you have to say if you are what side you want, because it's a primary. So you can't vote for the Republican.
I understand, but you see, basically us, the new voters, we need a lot of education. We need to know all these kind of things. And this is the beginning in how you vote. And this is where we're selecting the people that we're thinking. I had to call a friend. Who is this? What is he doing? And so I tried to research because, I don't know. And I am, my daughter is already hired in the government. She's going to be working right now. she became 10 years ago. So we are already here.
Right.
My kids are already going to be deciding who's going to be the leader from now on, and I'm the one that doesn't really know anything. So it's kind of like.
Well, the fact that you call and ask questions to try to get more informed is what you did yesterday is the same thing that I encourage everybody to do with judges come November and everybody else who's on the ballot, because most people don't know who the state rep is who's from. And just as
But it's important that the people that is on this table, they are more educated that now everybody's coming to vote. These people are really accepting.
Yeah.
In a lot of us coming. They're not welcoming new people doing it. I'm sorry.
well, poll workers are
It doesn't matter.
well, they're
Be one of them.
Yeah, yes, I have
You had
to
a question,
find out.
sir?
Yes, Your Honor. Are you aware of any Hispanic judges in the Kansas City area, in the general Kansas City area?
Yes, there's one or two, Justine Del Muro, I think, and, well,
I think she was a presiding judge. There's a
Yeah.
woman who's a presiding judge.
yeah. Now, there's more Hispanics in Kansas City, and I will say this, that they are organized. And let me tell you something else.
My follow-up question.
The fact that we are charged with considering the demographics, okay, gives license to consider the demographics. The group that has really worked very strongly on the gender and demographics are women. We have a ton of female judges. I mean, in St. Louis County, I think there's more female judges than male judges now. The African Americans have organized, so when there is a candidate applying for judge, man, oh man, are they coming. I know it. You know, the Hispanics have to be more organized.
Yeah, that's why I say probably leaders. Just thank you.
I will say, just to highlight the importance of this nonpartisan thing. There's a judge in St. Charles County who I have a lot of respect for. He was telling me recently that in his last election, he had to raise $100,000 to run for judge. And what I will say to you is, if I'm representing you, and you know that I haven't given any money to the judge for his re-election campaign, her re-election campaign, and you know that my opponent has given that judge $10,000, that the lawyer has given the judge $10,000, do you feel like you're going to get a fair shake? And that's...
Even if you will.
Even if you will, the perception is that you might not. And that is the reason why this plan exists, is so that you can go into court and have some level of confidence that the judge is going to look at the facts and apply those facts to the law. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you are, how much money you have, how much money you don't have, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're black, Asian, whatever it is, you know that you're going to get a fair shake.
Good. A young man in St. Charles that didn't get a fair trial.
By perception.
By perception, he didn't get fair. The questioning and the interpreter that was there was not at the same level. So somebody sent me a picture, and I don't know how true this was, but in a courthouse in St. Charles, there was a sign saying, beware immigrants who are checking.
Entering puts you at risk of relocation.
Yeah, entering here. Is that real? Did that happen? Or is there a little sign in the courthouse?
I don't know.
There is a sign, and it depends on each department, like each police department, each prosecutorial department is deciding whether or not to cooperate with ICE and report it. So what you have is somebody who may be here illegally and got a traffic ticket or something, not wanting to go to court, getting an FPA and a warrant, and I mean, like that snowballing because of the risk.
So it's good to have that sign.
No.
Meaning,
you can go there and then be
then
sent to
back out.
So one of these you can read it.
No,
That's a rock and hard place.
Well, it's a rock and a hard place, especially if it's like a municipal court, and you're looking at a warrant if you don't go in and show up.
Well, let's give a gentleman.
If there's any organizations that would like me to come out and talk, I'm happy to. Okay.
All right, so before I adjourn the meeting, take this homework with you. The Bolivian Society of Hispanic Friends goes up, and we know about it. We need to have your organization. Same thing with Venezuela, Puerto Rico Society, HLG. Because the numbers are going to be more powerful. Meetings adjourned. Please eat. Can we stay here after 8? Man, haven't seen you in a while. How are you?
It's good to see you. Take care.
Well, I think the last time we talked about doing social work, maybe it was something that happened there, might have been explained. So now we're from citizenship.